All right, today we're going to dive into a massive idea, a concept that's said to be the very foundation of reality itself. We're talking about something absolute, something unlimited and eternal. This is a journey that goes way beyond our everyday world and into the very substance of what it means to exist. So, let's get into it.
To get us started, just ask yourself this one simple question. Is there anything at all that lasts forever? I mean, think about it. Everything you can see or touch or even imagine, does any of it really escape the effects of time? This question, right here, is our gateway into understanding something truly profound.
You know, when you really try to answer that question, you pretty quickly realize something about our world. Everything in it, everything we can perceive with our senses, is actually defined by its limits. It exists inside a set of boundaries, and those boundaries are what make it what it is.
And this slide breaks those limits down perfectly. Just take a car, right? First, it's limited by time. It was built, and someday it'll end up in a scrapyard. It has a beginning and an end. Second, it's limited by space. If your car's in the garage, it can't also be at the store. It can only be in one place at one time. And third, it's limited by its own nature. A car is a car. It's not a bus. It's not an airplane. These three limitations, believe it or not, apply to basically everything we know.
So here's the big question, the game changer. If everything we know and experience is defined by these limits, what if there's a reality that isn't? A reality that just exists completely outside these rules of time, space, and form? And that question leads us directly to the heart of what we're exploring today. This unlimited, beginningless reality that exists beyond all those boundaries we just talked about is known as Brahman.
So, what is Brahman? Well, it's described as the absolute reality. It has no beginning, no end, which means it's totally beyond our concept of time. Nothing caused it to come into being, and because it has no boundaries, it doesn't have a specific form. It just is.
Now, trying to describe something that is literally unlimited is, well, it's tough, right? Our minds aren't really built for it. So, one of the best ways to start to get a handle on it is by understanding all the ways it's different from everything we do know. So let's use a simple tree as our comparison and look at 7 key ways Brahman is completely different.
First up, space. We can say, the tree is in my yard. That simple phrase puts a border around it. But you just can't do that with Brahman. It isn't in a place because it is every place. It's everywhere, all at once, with no limits. Okay, number 2, time. Our tree started as a seed, and one day it'll be gone. It exists within the flow of time. Brahman, on the other hand, is eternal. It was never born, it can never die. It exists completely outside of what we think of as time. Third, our tree is in a constant state of change, isn't it? It grows, it gets leaves, it loses them, it decays. It's never the same from one moment to the next. Brahman is the exact opposite. It is absolutely changeless. It's the one stable, constant reality that everything else changes around.
And this fourth point is so important. A tree is made up of parts. You've got roots, a trunk, branches, leaves. You can break it down. But Brahman has no parts. You can't break it down. It's not made of smaller things. It is one single, indivisible whole.
Okay, now the distinctions start to get a little more subtle, and honestly, this is where it gets really fascinating. Think about our tree. It's one specific tree, but it's part of a class of things called trees. Brahman is totally unique. There's no class of Brahmins. There's just the one.
And number 6 builds on that. Our tree, let's say it's a mango tree, is different from an apple tree. They're both trees, but they belong to different categories. Brahman has no other categories to be compared to. There's no other kind of ultimate reality that it could be different from.
And finally, the 7th difference, and this one really ties it all together. Part of how we know what a tree is by knowing what it's not. It's not a rock. It's not an animal. But with Brahman, there is nothing else. There is no non-Brahman for it to be different from, because it is, quite literally, everything there is.
So after going through all 7 of those points, what have we really learned? We've learned that Brahman is just fundamentally different from anything our minds can normally grab onto. It's a single, unified reality.
And really, the conclusion of all those points is captured perfectly right here. Once you strip away all the familiar divisions and differences we use to make sense of the world, you're left with this core concept. Brahman is one undivided whole. Now, to help make this a little more concrete, let's try an analogy. Imagine you're watching a movie on TV.
You're totally into it. You see all the characters, the drama, the action. You get completely sucked into the story that's playing out.
But what about the screen itself? The explosions, the drama, the chaos. None of it actually marks or changes the physical screen, does it? The screen is just the background that allows the whole movie to appear, but it stays untouched. In this analogy, Brahman is the screen, and our entire universe is the movie playing on it. Okay, let's try one last analogy to really drive this point home. This one is all about learning to see past the surface, past the form, to recognize the real substance underneath. So imagine you've got these sugar candies made in the shape of different animals, elephants, lions, you name it. A little kid might get really attached to the elephant shape, thinking it's special and different. But what happens if you teach them that all those shapes are made of the exact same stuff, just sugar? Their whole perspective changes. They realize the animal shapes are just a name and a form. The only thing that's truly real is the sugar itself.
And this chart shows the parallel perfectly. The different candy animals are like the countless different objects we see in the universe, but the real substance of the candy is just sugar. In the same way, the real substance of the entire universe is Brahman. And that leads to a pretty mind-blowing takeaway. The universe of separate things that we see is just an apparent reality. The only absolute reality is the substance underneath it all.
And that right there is the whole point. Understanding this isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's about a fundamental shift in how we see everything. It's about learning to look past all the temporary changing forms and start to recognize the single unchanging substance that makes up everything. So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If Brahman is the substance of absolutely everything, and that includes you, then what does that imply? What if the consciousness that's seeking this ultimate reality is that reality? What if the knower isn't separate from the very thing it's trying to know? Thanks for joining us.